Hi there, my name is Michelene Heine from Parallax Art Fair TV, where we bring you the latest news and information about London's most popular fair for artists and designers. If you're new here, click on the subscribe button, and you can also follow the link for more information about Parallax in the description box below. How did you first get involved in the art industry? Why did you decide to become an artist?
Well, I always thought that's an unusual question because from birth I was already making art. Already by 3 or 4 I could draw realistically anything. And when I went to public school, I was an unusual student, so people would just show me off. They would give me clay and I would make realistic figures. They'd say, how could someone in first grade make this? So I was always making art. There is no time where I started or anything. I think actually for most people that's really true. They don't realize it. But I think they always were able to do it. Just some opportunity comes and then they start making, something visible.
When was your first big break?
I went to Paris back in 1990 and some artists in Boston had told me maybe some print studios where I could maybe do some printmaking. And one of the studios is at the Cité Internationale des Arts, which is one of the most famous art residencies in the world. And they said there was a nice studio there. So I went there and I asked if I could see the studio. I was totally naive. And they said yes. And I was talking to the other artists. I said, of all the studios I visited in Paris, this print studio looks more like what would be suitable for me. And this one guy said, you'll have a better chance if you speak to the president of the foundation, Madame Felix Bruno. And I said, but they said, no, you should do it. So I went to the desk, made an appointment with her, saw her in a couple days. She said, yes, you will be our guest this summer. And normally you have to apply, 6 months or a year in advance to get that. But it must have been they just had room. I was staying in some friends of my grandparents in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, which is a city outside of Paris. So I had a place to stay, but I was able to use the studio all summer. And I said to Madame Bruno, I said, what an opportunity. It's so lovely. And it's such a famous art residency that I met people from all over South America, all over Asia, all over Africa, all over Europe. Every country, they had at least one artist. They had over 300 studios, and you met people and were influenced by art and all kinds of art. Writers, musicians, painters, everything. So I said to Madame Bruno, I hope I can come back. And I would write her a special letter in French every year. And she would say yes. And I went there for about 20 years. And I met people from all over. And because of that, I was invited to many other countries. I would meet artists, like from Finland, that were having residence. They'd say, June, why don't you come to Finland and come to an artist residency in Turku? And then I would go there, and I'd have an exhibition in the museum there. And pretty soon, I was being invited to have exhibitions in different museums and have artist residencies in different countries. And it was all just from that one start.
Do you think that goes for the industry now as well, that it's very much about knowing people in the industry, other artists, networking?
I think probably it's still like that. It's just like business. It's just a different kind of business.
You have work in permanent collections in Boston as well as in Japan. How did that come about?
Well, I got a visiting artist fellowship to Japan, which was really amazing. One of my professors at Tufts University said, how would you like to go to Japan for a year, June? And I said, I hadn't really thought about it. But he said, Tufts University is going to recommend that you have a full paid fellowship for a year at Tokyo University. And you're going to be studying with their master printmaker, Tetsuya Noda. and woodblock printing, mokuhanga. So I studied Japanese, and I went over to Japan, and I lived there for a year. And yeah, they put my work in their collections, but then when I came back to Boston, people noticed me more. And the Museum of Fine Arts bought some artwork, and right now they have one of mine hanging up in the museum in Boston. It's called RBG. I don't know if you know her. She's a famous U.S. Supreme Court Justice. She's in her 80s now, and we're all hoping she lives longer because she's one of the reasonable ones that is really, the word justice fits her. And so that's hanging up now, and I make work in different colors. So pink is a very symbolic color in the U.S. for women's rights. For the women's marches, we try to wear pink and things, and so they chose my RBG pink.
In what ways do you think Parallax Art Fair benefits artists traveling from the USA?
I think some of us don't travel that much. I was lucky that I had those residencies and things, that one thing led to another. But I found that in New Hampshire, where I was living, and I was an elementary art teacher for my job, that many people I met had never traveled outside the U.S. And I think that gives you a different opinion of all kinds of things. So I think it's good for American artists to be able to travel outside their country and meet people that think are slightly different because they're in a different country, different language, whatever. I think it's a good experience for us, and I think it's easier for us to come to UK because you speak English. So even if we're in another country, we can still be able to communicate pretty easily, things like that. So I think actually this would be a good first step for a lot of American artists to come to the UK, because then if they haven't studied language, they would have ease of getting around. They would understand things. And also London is an art capital of the world, so a good place to go.
Obviously, it's a long way to come from the US. What preparations do you make before a fair?
Now it's not so much of a big deal as it was when I first started coming. But I make sure that I get the plane flight. And usually if you go Google Flights, it's not that expensive. You just research the days. So I get the best deals on Google Flights. And then I get a hostel, really. And if you stay at some good hostels that are recommended, that's not very expensive. Some people even come with their family. And I don't go to fancy restaurants because really we're just here for the fair. It's intensive just to get your artwork here and everything. So I just focus on the fair when I'm here. But if I have time, I would go to the world-famous London art museums and, take in the culture here, go to opera and things like that.
For others wanting to travel here or to Parallax, what advice would you give them?
Travel light if you can. I found that since I do silk screen prints on paper, I can roll them up and take them on the plane with me. This way, I don't feel they're going to get lost or damaged. When I get to the fair, I have them with me the whole time. Then I can put my suitcase in the luggage or something, the baggage. And my prints are my prize, so I take them on the plane with me and put them in the luggage rack over my head and guard them. And then I think that would be an easier way, or takes works that you can carry. I notice if you're here in UK, you could carry bigger works, but if you're traveling, I think smaller works or works on paper would be an idea, unless they would ship. But shipping is quite expensive.
What do you find easy about doing Parallax?
I found, and this not everyone has done, but I don't like people to touch my artwork. So first time I was communicating with Tom Moore, I said, how can I come to London and get these number of works framed so that I can show them nicely? And also, a lot of people who are curious will put their hands on your work and actually damage it. And oftentimes they can be your fellow artists, So I just liked it. When I'm in an exhibition, I was in an exhibition at the U.S. Embassy in Paris in 2017. And the photographer for the embassy ran her hands all over my work saying, I wonder how this is made and stuff. I said, it's a screen print and you'll ruin it by doing that. And I thought, never again. I'm going to always have acrylic and frames. And they did it for me here. Tom recommended a place where I could get it. I sent the guy my measurements. They delivered my frames. They were waiting in my booth when I got here. And I got some nice framers. What's his name? Chris Durkin and his assistant come every time. They put my silk screens in the frames and they hang them up straight and proper. And I think that's the way to go for me with my larger silk screens, is to have them in the frames. And you guys just store them for me when I'm not here. So what a bonus. If I went to another art fair, I would have to start all over again. I'd have to get the frame. You know what I mean?
What do you find hard about Parallax?
I don't find hard. I think because I've been in a number of artist residencies around the world and things, I found a lot harder. I think it's pretty good here. People are kind to me. When I ask questions, they answer me and they try to help me. Transportation is very good. You know, European cities and Asian cities have a lot more transportation than U.S. cities do. In U.S., you wouldn't be able to just take the tube and get someplace. And that made it easy for me, too. You don't almost need a cab. I mean, if you want to, you can get a cab. But you almost can take the tube or bus any place. That's what I've done.
And what keeps you coming back to Parallax?
I like showing my artwork. Like this one that I made now with Greta Thunberg and the Scream. I finished it about 2 days before I got here. I went to the Edinburgh printmakers, and I knew I had just 2.5 weeks, and I thought, this is my deadline. I have to finish it. So that was part of the pleasure of knowing that I was making this new work about a woman, because I was drawing works about women and famous, and I also reference old masters. I just won a competition that you may have seen. It's called Young Masters, and I had an exhibition in London at the Pall Mall last fall, and then I was in the London Art Fair with their art young masters thing again, but I reference old masters' work in my work. So I reference the Scream, and then I put the Scream with Greta Thunberg standing on the bridge screaming, "Save the world," you know. So it was a pleasure to be able to show my work to people. Lots of times when you make art, you just take it home and no one just sees it. So if you have an art fair, you can think of it as an exhibition. That's how I think of it. I think of, you know, it'd be nice if I sold things, but I also think I made this work. I worked so hard on it. I want people to see it. So that's the pleasure.
What 2 tips would you give an exhibitor wanting to exhibit at Parallax Art Fair?
That's a hard one, but I think if you have big work like me, it was good to get a hanger, get someone to hang your work. I think if you want, everyone is different, so I hate to nail it down, but I feel that I want art to survive in the world. I want it to be like, you know, forever. So I think the art fair is being something to show your work, to make a statement that art is important in life, and we have to show it and exhibit it. And when people come, and if maybe they don't buy a work, I try to talk them into taking a silkscreen class. Because if they're not going to buy it from me, then they can make it themselves and take a silkscreen home. Because my point is that art is important. We want it to continue. So maybe the art fair could be another form, you could say, of people promoting the arts.
A beautiful message to have.
Well, I'm promoting the arts.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelene Heine from Parallax Art Fair TV. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe and tick the like button if you enjoyed the video. Leave us a comment. And for more information about Parallax Art Fair, look at the description box below. Until next time, thank you for watching.